So welcome back. So we're going to finally start the introduction to chemistry. We're going to start with chapter 2, the matter and change. Name it chapter 2 for our purposes. Matter and change. That's the study of chemistry, how interaction between matter causes different reactions and the study of change. So, what is matter? Matter is anything that has mass. So let's just do with mass and takes up space. So pretty simple. We learned this definition even in elementary school, right? So here are things that you need to know. So there are three states of matter: solid, liquid, gas, as we have previously learned. So here's some simple ones. From liquid to solid, we can call it freezing or solidification, or another term is crystallization. These are all terms when you turn liquid to solid. When you're turning gas to liquid, we all know this, condensation, pretty simple. So now the ones that are a little bit confusing, or that we might not have learned yet, is when we're going from gas directly to solid. This is called deposition. So that's something you might want to know, something you might learn later in your chemistry class. The other reverse is where you turn solid directly to gas. You call that sublimation. An example of this you can see is dry ice, where you might see, if you look at dry ice, you can see the gas actually evaporating off. Here are some other terms that you might want to know. If you're going from solid to liquid, well, you know this, it's called melting. Or another term that you should know is called fusion. You should know that term. And when you're turning liquid to a gas, it's called evaporation. You know that. But the other term that you should know is vaporization. Bam. So these are all the terms that you should know about matter and their states and their changing of states. The transition of states. So now let's look at what solid is. I mean, solid is basically, we have this compact area or volume, and there is just all these particles kind of munched up together. We'll go more into what, intermolecular and intramolecular forces are later in different chapters. But for now, it's when particles are very closely attached, almost no movement, and lots of intermolecular forces. A liquid is basically, it's some attachment. Here's one particle, there's another particle, here's another particle, and there's another particle. It's kind of loosely attached, and or there's some intermolecular forces and there's some movement. And finally, in gas form, there is no attachment. It's simply just these molecules suspended in this space. And these are all simple things that we all probably know. So now let's look at the classification of matter. Let's classify matter. Classification of matter. So matter can be first split up into two different things. One of them being substances, and the other being a mixture. Now, let me write that a little bit neater because it looks a little, my handwriting is a little ugly there. Substances. And substances can also be split into two different things, one of them being an element. We know what an element is. It's what's on the periodic table, and compounds. And we'll define we'll distinctivize what each term means. And mixture is split into two different things. Mixture, there is a homogeneous mixture, And this is often called a solution. So it's when it's something when it's clear, and I'll explain more. The other one is heterogeneous. Heterogeneous. Let me spell that better one more time. Sorry about that. Heterogeneous. There we go. So heterogeneous, I'll explain more. So let's define each term. An element is the simplest form of matter, and it's where it cannot be broken down into anything smaller. So take these for example. Na, K, Fe, Ag. These are all elements we have seen before, correct? Na, if you're Korean, you might have heard your mom or someone Korean say, "Oh, natrium." If you're eating too much salt, you're getting too much natrium. This natrium is coming from actually natrium. That's the like original name, but we in common form we just call it sodium. That's what we call sodium. And let me go over these ones too. This is potassium, right? But it's actually called calcium. So it's just interesting to know these, and it's good to know that these are where it comes from, these names. Fe, this is coming from ferrous. Sorry, ferrum. It's coming from ferrum. Ferrous is when it's ionized, and we'll go over that later when we're reviewing all these polyatomic ions. You will probably need to memorize a lot of polyatomic ions for chemistry. I mean, you need to, but we'll go over that later. Ag is, we know is uh the actual name is argentum. Argentum. So that's another one. Um, let's might as well let's go over some other ones that are the exceptions to like the common name rule. So SN, SB, AU, we know all these. HG, PB, lead, and then Cu, copper, right? This is mercury. And okay, this is called stannum. Stan. And this is tin. This is in common form is tin. This one is antimony. Antimony is actually called stibium. That's interesting to know. This is tungsten. W is tungsten, but it's actually called wolfram. Well, we don't actually call it wolfram. We call it tungsten, but this is where it comes from. Au is gold, and it's called aurum. Aurum. Hg, is mercury, is hydrogyrum. Hydrogyrum. Yes. Pb is lead, and this is called plumbum. I liked this one particularly. I memorized like better because it just sounds nice. Plumbum. It's fun to say. Cu is cuprum. This is copper. Yes. All right, these are all ones that you might want to memorize if you're into this kind of like niche stuff. I don't know if you need to learn it for your chemistry class. I did for my chemistry class. Okay, so let's define what a compound is now. Compound. We're going back to that. We're going back to this diagram here. Let's define what a compound actually is. A compound is a combination of two or more elements. So we basically take these elements and we're gonna learn how they bond later, but they bond and they're gonna make compounds. So it's when two or more elements are combined together. That's what a compound is. And they can either be chemically bonded. Well, they are chemically bonded, sorry. And they are bonded in definite proportions. Now you need to know this. Definite proportions, this is coming from the law of definite proportions. You need to know this. And there we go. Okay, so there's that. Now let's learn what a mixture is. So a mixture is a physical bond Oh, sorry, not bond. This the distinction. It's not a bond. It's a physical blend of two or more substances. So it's not actually chemically like bonded together. It's physically blended together. So there's no specific ratio. So I might ask, what is air? Air. Air is, yes, it is indeed a mixture. It's actually a mixture. And mixture is actually uh like we said, it's categorized into homogeneous and heterogeneous. Air, we can't really, it's not chunky. It's just a clear space. So that's why we call it a homogeneous or a solution. Air is actually a solution. It's a mixture. That's interesting to know. And one thing to know is that air can be separated by physical methods. You can physically break them apart. It's not something where you need to have a chemical reaction undergoing so that you somehow change the bonds or anything that's combined together. So now that we have covered that, um, for now, we'll leave it off there. But for the next time, we're going to learn about the distillation process and the law of conservation of mass, and then all the physical and chemical properties of matter. And that will sum up chapter 2. So next time we will finish off chapter 2. For now, this is where we'll leave it off.